Okay, I think we're going. Yeah, you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Ready? Oh wait, we can't do it like this because I have to do this. Are you ready?
Ready.
I forgot that we're doing it this way. I've only done it twice, so now it's still not like
Dr. Berman's throwing you off. This is all going to be in the pre-show show.
it is because we're going to start right.
Shall we begin?
You aren't stuck in traffic. You are traffic.
Let's begin now.
Please get that bicycle-shaped object out of this shop. Oh, no, dude. No mix and match here. Black bottoms or full-on kit. Pedal on, bro. Pedal on.
Let's begin now.
Oh, geez. Learn the hard way. Wider is better.
Today is Tuesday, June 25th, 2019.
2019.
You just downloading or listening to Bike Shop CX. Thanks for listening.
CX.
Thanks for downloading, everyone. Music we're using on today's show is Bijou by Philly Run. As always, you can get this tune at the Free Music Archive, where you can download it for, coincidentally, free. With me, as always, who?
Mr. David Palin. I thought you were referring to our special
I
guest.
said as
'cause you did
always.
say
I thought the as always would give
I'm
that away.
always there in spirit.
Always here in spirit.
And along with us is Dr. Tracy Berman. So because we are going to talk about your guys' experience on the Michigan Coast to Coast ride in place of a tech segment. We're going to have a mini tech segment on chain checkers and stuff today. And then, but mostly we want to talk about Michigan Coast. And I have not even been updated very much on how it went. So I'm just like the audience. I'm going to be like on the edge of my seat.
I can see already you're leaning forward there.
But yeah, let's get on with all of that. That's enough of my yapping. The bike shop is open. All right, Mr. David Palin.
Hey, Scotty D, what's going on, man? How
Not
you
much.
been? What you doing? Bike Shop CX. I have to make sure I get all my things in. No.
Get all the little things out of the way, and then okay. I'm just getting ready for cycling. I told you I bought an Airstream.
Yes, that's
Hopefully
so cool.
to bring to some cyclocross races.
Yeah, so we'll have that at Trek. It will be ready for Trek.
Probably not at Trek. Well, Trek,
we are going to be in the wide angle podium village.
I'm hoping for Trek. Yeah, I think we're still. I hope some of our fellow wide angle podium hosts are still thinking about doing the whole staying in the same location.
Yes.
Everybody staying together.
So if you're listening to this wide angle podium compatriots,
yes,
we're relying on you.
Spencer and Tim, come on, guys.
Come on, guys.
Let's go. So anyways, I probably won't bring it for that, but yeah. I'm excited.
That is cool.
It's going to
be wrapped?
No. They're expensive enough. I mean, an Airstream and the Sprinter van, it's pretty darn close, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness.
Oh,
but
man.
it's so awesome. But
you know what we
anyways,
could do? Let's give a call over to Emily Kachorik.
Yeah.
And they'll just spray it.
They can spray it.
We won't wrap it. We'll just...
They can spray bike it.
Yeah, spray bike the whole darn thing.
I was thinking just give my son a marker. And
There you go.
Sharpie. You Sharpies.
Yeah.
So who's that voice we're hearing?
Dr. Tracy Berman.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
You're like a regular now.
Yeah. You know how some politicians...
She's like,
You have some politicians that the newspaper coverage always has like the fact checker that follows them along.
Yeah.
This is the purpose of Dr. Tracy Berman here, so I have to tell the truth about how Coast to Coast really went.
Right.
Well, we didn't sync up our notes, which I'm a little worried about, but
The truth might come up.
maybe the bickering will be entertaining.
Well, that's good. What about so I know you guys, that was just this past weekend.
You know, he's really badgering us on this already, but I had a question for him.
Oh. Yes.
Scotty D, what are you working on?
Mr. David Palin changing it up. So what am I working on? The last thing. So I had to work on and this is what inspired the mini tech topic that I want to talk about, chain checkers today. I was working on another ride coming up in Michigan is the MUP ride. Are you guys familiar with the MUP ride?
I have seen that's part of Hubfest.
It's the
Or independent of
I think it
Hubfest.
stands for
Oh, the UP.
Middle Upper Peninsula.
Oh.
They do a big loop in the UP.
Yeah.
It's part of the Michigan League of Michigan Bicyclists. And they do this like 6 or 7 day loop. I think that there's 2 days that are 75 miles and the rest are shorter. There's actually a short optional gravel segment this year, which is cool. And you can choose to do shorter mileage if you want to, And I think our friend Sam Young is doing support for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so anyways, he's getting ready to do that. And he's like, hey, 2 years ago, I pressed in a new BB30 into his Specialized Roubaix. And I think that's what it is. Do they have a BB30?
Yeah, it's press fit. I believe it's
or is it PF30? I can't remember.
It's probably
it is
PF30.
No, because it had the snap rings. I think it's a BB30, and I think it's a Roubaix.
Oh, you know what? That's on my old Crux.
I can't remember. I think that's right. But anyways, so I done it 2 years ago. He's like, I think it's time again. It's starting to creak, which is totally depending on the miles you put in and what kind of conditions you're riding in. It's like, okay. So yeah, we did that. Got new bearings.
Did you put another BB30, or did you use like the wheels manufacturing?
No, just put new bearings in. Just pop the old ones out and put new bearings in and new snap rings in, and cleaned everything and got it all set to go. And he was good to go. So yeah.
So this is the first time in like a month and a half or 2 months or 3 months that your "What am I working on?" is not one of Dr. Tracy Berman's bikes.
Right.
Which brings us to our next question, I guess.
Okay.
Hey, Dr. Tracy Berman, what are you working on?
I should be cleaning my bikes because they're in a sorry condition.
Tracy's question should be, what are you training for?
Oh, that's true.
What am I training for? You know, I have my longest break since early March. From
Well, you
gravel
just did
racing.
like 200-mile races in 2 weeks, right?
I did. They're separated by 2 weeks, and
Right.
looks like I survived. So I was a little worried.
So you already, I mean, and just if you did no other riding, you got 400 miles in those 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that, like, after her Sancho 200, that ridiculously long 200-mile unsupported, not like you have only
Which is
supported
at a
certain
whole
places,
other level than a supported
totally
one.
unsupported in deep sand. Like, you think that would be at coast to coast 2 weeks later? I would try to help nurse her along.
Right. You'd be pulling her. She'd be like,
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little sore. No. No.
She's just like,
I tried to tire myself out.
She could not work hard enough to tire herself out enough that I was of any
that you could
benefit.
keep up with her.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's funny. Well, then, before we get to all that, Mr. David Palin, I have a question.
Yeah.
What are you working on?
I am working on trying to get enough sleep. You know, after I did this crazy ride chasing Dr. Tracy Berman across the state.
Well, you never have
through the
problems
forest.
sleeping, though.
True. Having narcolepsy, sleep is not a huge
helps
issue.
a lot with sleep.
It does. Yeah.
When you need sleep, it helps a lot.
Even when I don't need sleep, I didn't fall asleep on the bike the entire trip this time.
I was a little worried.
She was worried at one point. That's why I do not put aero bars on any of my bikes.
Because
Between kabush and narcolepsy, you will never find aero bars on any of my bikes. So I've just really been intrigued by our latest and greatest and newest sponsor.
Yeah, let's talk about that. When you're talking about recovery, the show is sponsored by, I just love saying Whoop.
Whoop.
Now.
There it is.
Speaking of Whoop, I'm at the Glen Gravel Ramble, which we've talked about many times.
Sleeping your heart away.
I went and did support for that up with the P.T. Barnum of Michigan Cyclocross, J.B. Hancock.
Yeah.
And it was sponsored by Stan's No Tubes, right? And Drew Esherick is there, who's been on the show before. And Drew is standing next to me, and I look over, and he's wearing something on his wrist. And I was like,
that's a cool bracelet.
Dude, is that a Whoop? And he said, yeah. I'm like, that's awesome, because they're a new sponsor of the show now. He's like, oh. And I'm like, I asked him how he likes it. He's like, it's really cool. He really dug it. And Yeah, he thinks it's really cool. It's real sleek looking. So I got, see one and check it out. And yeah, it's very cool. And so what is the Whoop, Mr. David Palin? What's it about?
So the Whoop is a heart rate monitor that you wear 24/7 and don't take off.
Right.
And you can even recharge it right there on your body still.
Yeah.
And it monitors heart rate and looks at things like heart rate variance and resting heart rate and peak heart rate. And it monitors you while you're awake, while you're exercising, and also while you sleep, because similar to the fact that when you work out, it's not while you're doing the stuff that is destroying your muscles that is important, but you're building the muscles in the recovery phase.
Exactly.
Similarly, you exhaust yourself doing life.
Yeah.
The important piece is getting good recovery, and in a lot of ways, that's sleep. And we never know. We can look at how many hours of sleep we get. That's important. That's good. That tells you some facts, but it doesn't tell you how completely you've recovered, as it will with some of the factors.
Yeah.
So it's basically a training aid that instead of focused on your training, it's focused on your sleep and recovery.
Right.
And making sure you're looking at that as much as you are at the other thing, because it's in many ways as important.
Yeah. So from here
as long as
until
you're doing the training piece, then the recovery is important. If you're not doing the training, the recovery really doesn't matter.
Wait, no, what? Hold on, because I was going to get the Whoop so I could taper for Red Kite Ronde.
Okay, that's coming up.
Which is coming up in a month, and I figured I would stop riding between now and then and just focus on sleep.
Yeah. So go to whoop.com, right?
Yeah, whoop.com.
And use the word, it's Bike Shop.
Bike Shop.
Is our
code
word for our show. And go check it out. We think you'll dig it. And let us know if you're using it. Send us an email. Where should they send the email?
bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
That's bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
I love it.
I did find out that quite a few of the women from Hagens Berman Supermint are using Whoop, and they have sold it to at least one of the ambassadors. I know she just signed up this week.
Cool.
All right.
And
did she use Bike Shop?
She didn't.
And they sponsor you, right, Tracy?
I wasn't ready. Yeah, they do.
So just so people know, you're not just randomly throwing out some name.
No, yeah. So each month we get to ask one of the ambassadors, ask the pros a question, and so mine was about recovery because I'm very concerned about it this month, and so
because you've earned good recovery.
After suffering for a full weekend with Mr. David Palin, she's earned a recovery.
Well, that's cool to know. That's very cool to know. Yeah, awesome. So, all right. Well, let's get on to talking about your guys' coast to coast ride. We've been talking about Michigan coast to coast for ever. So for people,
some of us have been signed up since as soon as it opened, and we're ready to go.
Some of us
encouraging others to do the same.
Some of us who have a 6-month waiting period that we say we can't sign up prior to 6 months before an event.
I signed
up. Signed up.
I signed up before 6 months for this one.
Yeah.
She signed up the day after last year, I think. Yeah. So.
And I think I signed up the day before this year.
So for people that don't know, this is a 200-mile gravel grinder in the same framework as something like Dirty Kanza, certainly because of differing terrain. It's not the same race as Dirty Kanza, but in the same idea, same rap mindset as that. There's a lot more sand here, I imagine, than there is
and
in
a lot
Kansas.
less flint rock.
A lot less flint rock, so punctures tend to not be as big of a deal here. But the basic premise is you start on the east coast of the state of Michigan, which is right on Lake Huron, one of the Great Lakes. And you start right at sunrise, and you try and ride across the state of Michigan and get to the west coast, which is on Lake Michigan, before the sun sets. So that's the basic premise. Last year, this race was about a month earlier, which meant there was a month less of sunlight, which made it even more difficult.
Yeah.
The race moved back a month this month. I think it's of course put on by Matt Acker. And I think...
And Mark Van Tongeren of Michigan Adventure Racing.
And I think June was kind of always the plan, but last year they had to boost it up for calendar reasons or something. I think they're going to keep it at June, aren't they?
It looks like they'll keep it at June.
Yeah.
The thing last year, it was on Mother's Day, so there was some question about Mother's Day. Some mothers thought that was the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm. Some did.
One that is sitting here.
What a better thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then There's always scheduling conflicts because that was almost exactly a month before DK.
Right.
And now this one's 3 weeks after.
Something like that. Yeah.
3 weeks
ish.
after
Yeah.
DK.
Yeah.
So that's DK being Dirty Kansas. So that's kind of you want to have them spaced out enough that people that aren't crazy enough to do 200 miles, 2
Twice.
weeks, 200 miles would attend this. But it's also this coincided with the MSU Grand Fondo, which is this week. And then locally, it's a road ride, but it's a big thing here in Michigan.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the scheduling aspects of it.
So things going into this, I know before the event we were talking about last year. It was because it was earlier. It was we thought it was going to be wetter.
Yes.
And that the ground, and that this year being in June, it was going to be a lot more loose sand. What did you guys? How did that play out?
It was. I mean, it rained all week going into it until
gotten-
Thursday.
It's been a very wet spring.
Right. We
That
didn't.
said,
Summer.
there was. I found there was a lot of loose sand out there.
I
mean,
didn't think there was any more than last year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There you go. See, the fact checker is here. This year's equipment choice was dramatically different.
Yes. So we'll talk about that for sure.
And the other thing that we were all, when they first put this up last year, many of us had a sense of, why are we going east to west? That's going to be into prevailing winds. Prevailing winds are all. Turns out that the what do they call those winds that come across the country there?
Winds.
Prevailing winds. The
Trade winds.
Sure.
We're actually east to west.
Those are higher up in the atmosphere than the ones on the ground.
Yeah,
And the ones on the ground, evidently, at least in May, is prevailing east to west. And in June, turns out it's similar.
Yeah.
So this year we had an east-northeast wind.
This is my thing. People say that all the time. When you tell, these people that like have done one organized ride in their life, and they're like, why are they why, as if they're informing you of something.
Yeah.
Why don't you know winds predominantly go west to east? It's like, yeah, first of all, that's not the point. It's way more important to do the sunrise sunset thing.
Yep.
Secondly, gravel grinders riders don't care. They want it as hard as possible. So there's that too. But thirdly, that's not always true.
Yeah.
All right. It's not
ultimately
always true.
In the very beginning parts of this race, you're on flat roads, open fields.
Very high quality dirt gravel roads.
Yeah.
I got to say, those
But
roads are
For the
really
most
high
part,
quality.
there was a mud pit in the
Yeah,
early sections. Yeah.
We've gotten so much rain. I think it was only like 6 miles in or something. I saw on
They
on
actually,
Instagram.
it was according to what Matt was telling us, it was hub deep of water over the road on like Wednesday or Tuesday. So the township or wherever that is came in and put in gravel and then loam on top of it. So he said it's like a
Jello.
slurry.
10-inch mud bog.
It's like a slurry of gravel.
Yeah. So they neutralized the race actually till that point.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Which played a big factor in my ride.
That helped you complete the distance.
Yeah.
David got off in the middle of it and was just chatting with Matt Acker.
Yeah, I walked to the other side of the mud bog and I sat and chatted with Matt and told him that we want to make sure we have him on the show again as a follow-up.
Good.
And waited for Dr. Tracy and
to tiptoe
Justin.
delicately across the
Did you
dirty
notice
mud.
there were people that actually took
Bags and stopped and put them over their feet. I also
Plastic
noticed they
bags.
had to go like all the way to the front of the line to do that, and I was like,
you
you
couldn't
got
have
to
put
do that when you're not in
Yeah.
people's way.
Yeah. And then the 3 or 4 people I saw that did it, the mud came up over and got into the bags.
Now they have bags full of water.
Yeah.
Great.
They're saving that as a souvenir.
Yeah.
Michigan mud.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And the start, the weather-wise, man, oh man.
Couldn't ask for a
was
better
gorgeous.
Holy
day.
cow, what a great
Yeah.
day. We've been getting dumped on rain-wise all spring and early summer. And then, like, for the 3 days around coast to coast, it's just beautiful, in the 70s, sunny. So that's awesome. So
I always find it interesting how our memories kind of short circuit on some parts of these things that we've done in the past.
Yeah.
Like, based on last year, if I had said, hey, let's sleep out in a tent the night before,
Right.
how would that go?
Right.
had I like taken better notes on last year or just thought back to last year, it'd be what a bad idea. If it were raining, or in the case of last year, freezing rain all night.
Last year it was like 30 degrees tonight. I mean, it was freezing cold last year. What was it? And so what did you guys do?
The weather predictions were for rain
nights.
all weekend.
Yeah.
And we ignored that.
But it didn't get as cold as it was last year.
It didn't get nearly as cold. We camped out, and besides dew on the tent when we woke up
which
on
is
Saturday
almost
morning.
true of any day in Michigan.
We didn't have any issues with weather around the camping aspect of it. Again, thanks to narcolepsy and whoop.com.
You can sleep
I can sleep through anything. Dr. Tracy, I think, had a little bit of trouble sleeping on Saturday night after the event.
Yeah.
I did.
But so that wasn't an issue. I think we had really kind of wanted to do as we did last year with a hotel on Saturday night. I mean, a nice shower rather than a camp shower on Saturday night
feels good.
is really kind of a
after 210 or 12 miles or whatever it was.
Yeah. But being the big planner that I am and doing things so far in advance, we waited till way too late and everything was already sold out.
Oh. So, equipment choices. Let's talk about bikes. First of all, you guys are both riding your Warbirds, I assume.
We both had
Very similar Warbirds,
Tracy
even down
Berman.
to the name tag.
Yeah.
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 Matchy.
Yeah.
David loves
I'm
matchy.
all about the matchy.
David's riding Dr. Tracy Berman's B bike in essence.
No, that's my A bike. David gets the A bike.
All right, so Warbirds and tires. What do you guys have for tire size?
I had 40s.
Okay.
Oh, you had 40s?
40s.
I did.
And
I didn't realize they were that big. I
we'll
thought they were
say
like
40s
35s.
with tubes.
With tubes and too much pressure. It's like, these are hard. And I'm like, it's good.
That's all right.
I'm happy.
I want to roll.
That's it.
And David.
I was riding, I had been doing a lot of pre-rides on my Hutchinson 35s.
Yes.
Which I really like, especially on the gravel down here.
Mm-hmm.
After Justin had done a recon ride up in the forest, I got kind of nervous and decided to go with the Specialized Pathfinder 42s.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. It threw my brakes and everything. I was really kind of nervous, and then I realized, I don't even have candy brakes.
You were worried about brake clearance? Because you're not used to the disc.
So the 42s fit fine in the Warbird frame.
Uh-huh.
They rolled really well. I had tubes as well in my backup.
What do you mean?
Well, in my
Repair
tool kit, in my repair kit, I had tubes just in case. I was running tubeless.
So
at
no
like
tubes
30
in your
pounds.
wheels, just
No.
tubes in your back, in your bag in case.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So
Gotcha.
Dr. T talked to us about gear choice apart from the equipment on the bike. What were you running? How were you carrying all your water? What nutrition were you using?
So I used the Orange Mud backpack that, based on what Amanda had used last year, I bought one of those, and I've been using that for all my long rides. Especially helps in the technical sections because you can just suck water out of the hose, and you don't have to worry about grabbing a bottle. And so I had that plus 2 bottles, and I used Infinite, the Go Far with a little bit of protein in it, and then boiled salted potatoes and Swedish fish.
All right.
And, yeah.
Wow.
Very international.
Yeah.
And the Orange Mud, it seems like it tends to, you carry the weight of the water higher on your back, correct?
Yeah, and it's not very big. What is it?
2 liters.
Yeah, 2 liters.
And it's up like almost in between your shoulder blades
is,
versus down in the, like an anchor in the bottom of your back.
And we've talked about last year's event a few times, you and I, and Dr. Tracy and I off mic, but I had used a more standard Camelback
Hydration
last
pack,
year, and it made me very miserable.
You hate those in the first place, so let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, and how did the Orange Mug work for you?
And based on Tracy's recommendation and speaking with Amanda last year, I went with an Orange Mud. It was pleasurable.
For you to say that about a hydration pack is amazing.
I did have one complication with it though. So I'd filled it the day before with Infinite, which it gets sticky.
Yeah.
And so the slider on it was kind of glued on when I got to the first aid station, and I
thought she was going to have to abandon it.
I thought I was going to have to abandon it too. I had a terrible time getting that slider off.
So explain the slider.
Rinse it well. Yeah. So that's how you seal it. It's like the bladder, and then you fold it over.
It's kind of like a zip, like a big Ziploc kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Ziplocs that have the little slider bar on
a Ziploc.
But it was glued there. So definitely need to wipe that down or not fill it the day before or.
Yeah.
And they recommend using some, whether it's lip balm or something to wax that.
That's a great idea.
Okay, I missed that memo, but I've used it on lots of rides, and that has not happened before. So I'm like, why now? First checkpoint. Can't get this off.
Yeah. And as you know, I tend not to drink enough. We go out for 80-mile
and you've got
gravel
like
rides,
3 ounces out of one bottle. Drank.
But I emptied, and for lots of reasons. One is I wanted to survive this darn thing, and the other is because I got a sticker on my helmet if I was good and emptied my bladder, my hydration bladder. Emptying my other bladder just came naturally after that. But so I have a number of Tiara stickers on my helmet that I earned.
Nice.
On the
Who
ride.
was handing those out?
I did. They've got some little pockets on the Orange Mud backpack, so you can put Tiara stickers in those for your friends if you need them as encouragement.
So we had that, and the other thing that you can use those little pockets for. I had some Rice Krispie treats and some, standard gels and stuff stuffed in there, which was good. And I used one side for the full packaging. The other side, once I finished it, I just used it so I wasn't dropping trash along the way.
Yes,
and staying on top of things. Yeah,
nice. And I know for both of you guys, we were talking before the event about bag choices.
Yes.
Frame bags, rear bags. What were you guys going to do? And so, what did you guys decide?
Tracy for Sancho had used my Revelet bag.
Yeah,
and then said, "Does this make me look?"
So, because Revelet makes a lot of bags, let's say that's the long rear saddle bag that goes below under your saddle. That sticks way out up high. That a lot of like bike packers use.
And if I were a better person, I would know it by name and be able to refer to it here by name. And mention also that there was a recall on the bag, and that people, if you have the Revelet bags, the one that sits under the saddle, go ahead and check out the Revelet site and make sure that you're not riding with one of the recalled bags. They will replace it. But we ended up not doing that.
No,
I didn't even have a saddlebag behind my saddle.
I left my normal one on there.
Yeah.
It's interesting because last year we went into it and I had very much of a survivalist.
You were probably overpacked last year. Let's be
very
honest.
Overpacked.
Yeah.
Very overpacked. I had that big Revelet bag.
You had to carry a tire too last year.
I carried a tire because I was running some tubies last year, and I had spokes and all kinds of anything I could ever need. Thinking more
again with
to
disc
me, it was
brakes,
more like
a broken spoke is not as big of a deal, right?
That is true. That's true. But I was in a more of a a through ride kind of mentality of
Right.
I need to be prepared for anything. Maybe have a bivvy and just in case I'm going to spend the night out in the
Do you
forest.
have an emergency blanket?
I did last year.
Though it was cold, so
yeah, and I also had a puffy coat in there last year.
A puffy coat?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
One that all the feathers were in it and stuff.
It wasn't melted and
was not
leaking
melted.
out.
But last year was
Louisville.
cold, man. I mean, it was it was significantly colder. So if you had to stop, and were drenched, I mean that's where people get into trouble. So but this year, not all that stuff.
Not all that stuff. I had on the Warbird, you have that water bottle cage that fits under the bottom
under
tube,
the down
tube.
Yeah,
and I had used a X Labs little toolkit that I put in there.
Okay,
it screw on top. It had a spare tube, my Topeak rapid ratchet. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
In there, that was kind of all the tools I needed. I had a chain magic link
Right.
for my chain in case something happened. Of course,
Good.
I did have, and I also have in there a derailleur hanger, but forgot to bring a chain breaker. So I would have been messed up if something had happened. But
I have
would
one
have
on
been
my
okay.
multi-tool. I
Yeah,
would have taken
and-
care of you.
And and you know, that's the kind of thing. If someone rolls by, they might usually would have one,
Yeah.
and you could borrow. So
Yeah.
that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So,
And the other things in bags, I use the Revelit feed bag.
so you had the Revelit feed bag, and did you have a frame bag?
I did not have a frame bag.
Nothing.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, Scotty D, but I'm not a very big guy. And using the Revelit frame bag or the...
It takes up a lot of your
I
frame.
actually have the Topeak frame bag.
Okay.
Thank you to Topeak. And it takes up the frame enough that I would have trouble getting my water bottles.
Right.
And while the 2 liters on the Orange Mud provided most of the hydration I needed for each leg, I did need that. I
bottles.
did empty it and needed a bottle, and it wasn't necessary.
Yeah. So all you carried was what you could fit in the Orange Mud and what was in the bottle cage under the down tube.
That
and
was,
and
tools.
And just
a
feed
little
bag.
bit.
and your feed bag.
In
Right.
my feed bag, I had my on the outside, in the inside of the feed bag, I had food. On the outside, I had a couple of cartridges, an
And then you had
inflator.
jersey pockets, right? You could stick,
I mean,
you know.
But
Yeah. I had the salsa top tube bag. There's
Okay.
Yeah.
bosses on the bike to mount that on
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
Yep.
And what did you have in
And-
that, Tracy?
my potatoes, my fish, my USB charger,
Right.
which I decided I needed to hook up while we were riding. I managed to do that. I didn't want to
Tracy-
stop.
Dr. T, I have to say, like, she has goals for all kinds of mini goals along the way.
Yeah.
And at some point, she had a goal of, I want to be able to feel comfortable riding no hands on the gravel. She became
I'm gonna
like
practice this
She
right
became
now.
this pro.
No. Last year.
She was sitting up on the ground. Every time I look up, I see her sitting up and kind of dancing and spinning her arms around, pointing to scenery.
Well, she was trying to
Reaching for an
create a
inhaler,
good
you know,
draft
like-
for you behind her, sucking her wheel.
Exactly.
He wouldn't take it though. Stubborn.
Stubborn. Yeah.
All right, so checkpoint 1, you come into checkpoint 1. Did you have any mechanical issues at all?
I did
one of you
not.
No.
I did not. I laid the bike down once.
Okay.
We're coming through one of the forested
Which,
sections.
you know, that you like
That's
to
not
do
a
that once in an
mechanical
event.
issue.
Yeah.
That's an operator
Yeah,
error.
no, well, certainly operator error. I was passing a guy as we're going into the forest. He kind of bumped left while I was on his left, and it was not like an aggressive move by any
Yeah.
part on his.
Right.
And I was just rolling faster than him. It wasn't like I was trying to make an aggressive pass or anything.
Yeah.
It put me in a puddle. At the bottom of the puddle, there was a rut that kind of caught my front
It
wheel.
stopped your momentum
Yeah.
very quickly.
Yeah. It was,
It
just
was a tricky puddle.
Yeah.
I hit it the wrong way, but I stayed up.
Thank you. Yeah.
David was also going much faster than me through that section. He dropped me every time once we got to the single track. Oh, I passed you on one hill.
She did. When Justin and I had to dismount and walk, Dr. T was just riding by us.
Now, one of the things we talked about last that you guys wanted to do better this year from last year was your transition amount of time in the not the
I
transition.
knew this was going to come up, Dr.
in
T.
the checkpoints.
Correct.
Because I think you said last year at the third checkpoint was like 40 minutes or
Yeah, it was 40 minutes. And
Come
apparently,
to find out, it was a misunderstanding.
we both thought the other person needed more time, and we're both like wanted to
You're
take
both
off.
like, come
Yeah.
on, let's go.
We're
Yeah.
both thinking, come on, let's go. But we were both saying, oh, she's sitting down right now.
So I must
I'll-
need to rest too.
I'll
Does
let her
David
get, I'll
need
let
to
her
move
get the
closer?
rest that she needs. And then she was thinking, what the heck? Dave's taking so long. I'm going to sit down and wait.
We find this out a year later.
Yeah. We
Like,
honestly,
I was
we've been
waiting for
riding
you.
for a
Wait, no,
year.
I was waiting for you.
And
So what happened this year?
We did better, not a lot better, but partially that was to deal with our support.
yeah, we should
Status?
probably talk about our support
But
status.
we're about 20 minutes per.
Okay.
So
that's
the
at least-
goal was 10, but I did not have my
10 goes by fast.
yeah.
10
Yeah.
minutes goes by quickly.
Yeah.
Right?
we were
Yeah.
hoping for 5, planning on 10. I think.
Yeah.
And
And it ended up being 20.
yeah, the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
one, I needed to use the indoor restroom. and that took a little extra time. And
Sure.
I think Dr. T was arguing with her orange mud for at least
with
with the slider.
half of the time that I was in
Right.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
The second one, there was Dr. T used the inside bathrooms there.
I did the next two because I was just like,
Yeah.
might as well.
Might as well.
They're here.
Mr. David Pallen's here
Yeah.
to blame it on. And then, of course, I was standing with Mitty Matthews, who helped provide us some support, talking and jabbering with her while Dr. T was using the restrooms. And then, as we roll
then
out, I
decided
decided
to lube his chain.
we should probably lube the chain. So that added a little extra time there. But again, not nearly as long as last year.
Yeah.
And then the last stop, we think we did well. We just kind of stood, used the inside bathroom again, because at that point, it was most convenient. They didn't even have a porta potty out there.
You needed a Coke. That
And
was
I
the
needed-
general store.
And I needed a Coke. There was one in the van. I had.
Did
Coke from the
they
van.
have donuts?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah, and our support people had donuts too.
Coke and donuts.
And thank you, Matt Acker and Mark Van Tongeren. There was donuts at the finish.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a well planned finish line when you
Yeah,
got donuts.
that's right.
at the
I have
finish.
a little bumper sticker that says, "We'll ride 210 miles across the state for donuts."
All right, support. What happened? What was going on there?
Dr. T and I are now looking at each other like,
All right, where do we start? Where do we start with this one?
Our original
it all
plan,
began. I'll tell you,
yeah.
it all began
Because I know there was issues,
August.
so we'll talk
I think
about
like
this.
July or August.
Yeah.
I went to my
of last year.
of last year. Yeah, not coming up in
Since we're
July
not
or
even in
August.
July. Okay.
Yeah. Where I looked to my A mechanic and number one compadre, who said, "Yeah, no," and that would be Mr. Scotty D.
Oh, yeah,
who,
right.
For
I was like,
all intents and purposes,
I'm not doing it next year. Just so you
was
know.
smart. And
It's a long
that's
day.
a big ask of anyone. We found someone who was willing to do it. Reminded him that you have to take a whole weekend off.
Yeah, it's
It's a big ask, and we really appreciate it. Think about it now,
Right.
for sure. You really
Yeah.
want to do this,
yeah.
And yep, that guy was all about it. Was going to help us, even because as much as I'm a really bad planner, 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out,
Yeah.
don't forget. And remember, you had to get Friday off, and I forgot about Sunday, but I'll get Sunday off. I got Sunday off. Great, everything's great. 2 weeks out, you sure this is good? We'll get you. Do you want to stay in a hotel? You're going to stay in the campground with
Right.
us.
Yeah.
Everything's good. The week before, something came up, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
With 1 week's notice.
1 week's notice.
After knowing about it for almost a full year.
Yeah, and so then at that point there's still rain in the forecast, so it's finding someone who can get time off work with less than a week's notice and
Yeah.
wants to camp in the rain
Yeah.
and spend all day driving across Michigan.
Yeah.
Waiting for 3 schlubs
You
to
know,
make their bikes across the state.
I would have
there
done it,
was
but I had to go buy an Airstream. That was one of my major things I had to do.
Yeah.
So the line of people excited to do that was not long.
Dr. T we have a Slack group that's with the Ann Arbor Velo Club women's cycling team. Put out a Slack plea. Is that the
plea
right
for-
word?
Please.
Included
Help.
benefits.
Yeah.
None. Challenges. Sleep on your back in the mud overnight. Stand around waiting for Mr. David Pallen.
Yeah, I'm not a marketing person.
So what ended up happening?
So, I mean, kudos to...
Here's the thing, though, because I think at that week before, when you sent me the message of, hey, any chance you could go, is you could have done the relay, right? And where one of you guys did the front half and one. Now, it's not the same, and but at least you could have still done something and made
we could have done the
something.
relay.
Right.
And my preference at the time was, here's my chance to back out. I'll drive.
That is funny because that thought went through my head when you said we could do the relay. I said, Mr. David Pallen doesn't sound too sorry about if he has to do the relay.
Yeah. And I probably would have preferred to back out than do the relay. I know actually the person I would have done the relay with would have been Justin.
Yeah.
Because Dr. T was and now has cemented her lead in the Michigan Gravel Race Series. So it
Yeah.
was important that she did it on her own. And Justin was also from the mindset of, I want to do this to do 200 miles.
Yeah.
The
So it
relay
would've- it
doesn't
would've
interest
sucked.
me as much.
Yeah. So okay.
And
so
I
what,
really wanted to back out. So
what did happen?
worked out well.
So what did happen?
So word got out to Craig North, and Craig North, the captain of the the white Vandermitten, as he calls his the mitten van,
His Sprinter van, yeah.
Yep. And he wouldn't let me back out in a sense.
Right.
He put the word out to the community, the Ann Arbor cycling community, and there's two challenges of that, right? There's the guy or woman or people that are going to be your support at each of the stops along the way.
Right.
And also there's the how are we going to get, whether we all drove to Au Gres and then used help along the way, how are we going to get back to Au Gres from Ludington?
Right.
And there are options. The race this year has
point-to-point sets up a lot of challenges logistically. Yeah. So, yeah.
And that's where I said, I'll just drive, and that way it'll be good. And it turns out that Craig drove us to Au Gres. He spent the day with us, or a little bit of time with us in Au Gres, and then drove the van across the state so he could do the 100-mile, which started and ended in Ludington.
Which is, for people who don't know, that's where the finish is on the west coast of the state.
Right. So that's a 2.5-3 hour drive.
Yeah. It's not a full 200 miles away. The course does 200 miles to get there, but if you drive it straight across, it's a little bit less than that.
Yep.
So go ahead.
And then we had Al McWilliams from Q&M and their 3T team. He's a big supporter of local cycling. He supports the Fem-Equip team, local racers here locally. He was supporting Brad Stark from the local bike shop. Okay. So we just did a little bag drop with him. He met us at the first stop after waiting for Brad, dropped our things at the second stop because Brad was in and out fairly quickly. And actually, Al wanted to do a ride, so he dropped the bags there, went right to the third stop, and rode the course backwards was his plan. At the lunch stop, also Mitty Matthews was there with Heidi Schneider.
Okay.
Mitty and Heidi.
Yeah, of course.
Heidi, hide my 5 mil.
They hung out with me at the Glen Gravel Ramble almost the whole day. So
of course, yeah. And they were supporting some Canadians and were good enough to grab our bag and bring it to Canada.
Yeah, I went to Canada.
After the ride.
Yeah.
And then at the third stop, Al was there again for us. Cool. And Craig was at the finish.
At the finish, because he had done his ride.
He had done a 100-mile gravel race and came in second in his 60-plus age group.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's been having a great season. He did Lumberjack the week before. Kudos on Craig. And again, thank you so much for Craig. The laughter on the way back, the laughter in the campsite the night, the stories that will never go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
being exhausted
so much fun.
and not sleeping.
Yeah.
Strange
sure.
things are funny.
You mean not sleeping the night before or the night after?
Yeah.
I slept pretty okay the night before, but the night after, no, I was awake.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time sleeping after these long events. So, yeah.
I had like that one as you fall asleep dream kind of scary wake up note that I was actually running up the Sleeping Bear dunes and then I fell asleep.
Did either of you guys see what's like some equipment things that you saw that you were like, I wonder about that. Like, was there any like weird equipment choices that you saw? Like people
Lauf forks.
Lauf forks.
People love their Lauf forks. So I saw one on a
Matt
fat bike.
Acker included. I mean, he's a huge Lauf fork guy.
Yeah.
So, and he loves them. So.
And Brad Stark, again from the local bike shop, he raced on a Lauf fork. He had a great race.
Yeah.
Bought from me.
That he got from Tracy, who won it last year in the Michigan Gravel Race Series.
Yep.
But anything like you're like, whoa, this person is doing fixed gear, or this person is doing
Corey the Courier.
Yeah,
he was riding single speed this year. I talked to him and he said, I established what I could do. That's enough. We don't need to do it again.
I made it easy on myself this year by doing single speed instead of fixed gear.
Exactly. And other than that, there were, it's funny because I kind of could pick out who were the first time riders and not based on the gear, some of the gear choices. Again, we talked about the Revlet bag and what we had done last year with all the extra stuff. People that had kind of that look of, I'm doing the Tour Divide look about them.
Yeah.
With lots of
over prepared.
Yeah.
There were some pretty big camelbacks that looked uncomfortable.
Yeah. There was one guy I saw that perhaps needed more gear who had 3 big water bottles, not cycling water bottles, but bottles of water that you would buy at the convenience store. That was his hydration in his back pockets.
Oh.
And I could not imagine.
So the back of his jersey was like down around his knees.
Yeah, almost. And can you imagine how warm that water is going to be riding in a 70-degree day?
That weight on your
yeah,
back. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I should have done a little orange mud spiel to him. I think he would have bought the one off my back.
Well, I think that's a common thing is that you start to think of it as a 200-mile ride rather than 4 50-mile rides, right? Because at any point, you only have to go 50 miles, right? So you only really need stuff to get you through 50 miles. Now, I'm sure there are people doing it unsupported, maybe. So they are going to, carry more, of course, because they need to be prepared for the whole day. But in general, I think people do lose sight of the fact that it's really for 50-mile rides, and that's all you need with you is stuff to take you 50 miles.
I would
at a
say
time.
that the only thing I had more of this year was hydration, and part of that was the orange mud pack. But it got a little sketchy with us running low on liquids for the longer third leg last year, and our water angel who saved us was not there this year. So
I noticed she wasn't there.
We would have been in trouble if we had not had more bottles. But I think all 3 of us had trouble in that section last year, so we're like,
no chances,
no chances. We're not going to run low. And actually, I accidentally over mixed some Infinite into my half bottle, so David had to save me with water because that would have been
it was like syrup.
it would have been undrinkable. I thought it was a half serving, and I dumped it, and I was like, whoops.
Oh,
yeah, that was a little problem.
So the orange mud and 2 bottles seemed to be enough.
Yeah,
it was enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the nice thing that Matt and Mark did this year, an added benefit, an added piece of the race this year was to support JDRF. You could hire, if you didn't have support, you could hire them to be basically neutral support. They had a tent set up. You could give them drop bags. They set up your drop bags at each of the stops, as well as having hydration and Gatorade.
That's a great idea.
Stops.
Can be very helpful. So
you also could have done it shuttle. So they started at Ludington. If you didn't have any support at all, you could start at Ludington. They drove you all the way over to the packet pickup, and then they drop you off at the campground or sleep on the floor in the church, and then they would do SAG, and then of course you end up back at your car that you parked in Ludington.
That's cool.
So that was an option. But just a more expensive option.
And it's just logistic. You got to get all that logistically figured out.
Right.
And,
right. Yeah.
It's just nice to have somebody that's going along the way. So, all right. Well, the big question, finishing time. What happened, Mr. David Bell's over there scowling.
I'm wincing.
Because I know there was a goal that you guys had, right?
There was.
Originally, I was going to hold us to beating last year's sunset time.
What was last year's sunset time?
9:02.
9:02.
Okay.
9:02. So we had 30 extra minutes this year.
Because this year's time was 9:32.
So then I was like, okay, 9:32. But mostly my goal was to stay with David, which I did. So I won.
She managed to stay with me. I don't know how she managed to do it. There were times when she... it's not hard to stay with me. She almost fell over 3 times because she was going so slow.
No.
Yeah.
So when did you guys finish? What time?
I think we finished at 9:44.
something? Yeah.
So I think we missed it by 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
12 minutes.
And as far as your riding time, was it longer than last year or
No,
shorter?
it was 15 minutes shorter.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
And 45 minutes shorter in non-riding time.
yeah.
Okay.
there
So
was-
that was considerable.
Gotcha.
We cut an hour off the race time from last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of which is good. Yeah, so I had some issues. So we say the fitter, it's like the cobbler's kids never had shoes.
Yeah.
My saddle height was a little bit on the high side.
Okay.
Which gave me some serious
Well, this
knee
is the
pain
first
at the end.
really long ride. I mean, your Colnago last year, you had tens of thousands of miles in it, so you were extremely comfortable on this. This is the Warbird is a relatively new bike for you, as it is for you, Tracy, too. I know, but so
I've got like over 1,000 miles.
yeah,
on mine now.
but
she's done
right. You've done
200-mile
other
race
200-mile
and some
events
100
on
miles.
that bike.
yeah, and a couple 100s too.
So for you, David, this was your first 200 for sure.
Yep. I had done 100 2 weeks prior. For the
so
Elmo.
it just not that's you could still figure that stuff out, but those things can still creep up when the bike is not as familiar. So you think your saddle was a little high?
170, I was having what at mile 70 was just a little twinge, maybe a little bit in the knee.
In a knee, yeah.
At 170 became pretty painful.
Okay.
So and therefore, when here's my plug for fitting. When you're not properly fit on a bike, just because it's not just, my knee's a little sore, because of that, you then ride that bike differently because your body is changing to favor it so you're not screaming in pain every time you press down on a pedal.
Yep.
And therefore especially with saddle being too high, you're reaching, which means that your saddle area on the saddle and on you is
a little bit
tighter and grinding a little more.
Yes.
And so there's issues around that. And as I generally am a grunter, as I was warning Dr. Tracy and Dr. Justin about, if I bend over to pick something up, I grunt but there was one point coming into the last 15, 20 miles where I let out a little bit of a louder grunt. They were about 50 yards up the road and they both turned back and looked like who shot Mr. David Palin? He's dead. But I had warned them ahead of time.
No, if I grunt, it's absolutely normal.
Yeah. Just leave me by the side of the road. Just go on without me.
No, we were not going to do that.
And they didn't, to their credit. No. So, it was a struggle at the end. True struggle, but it was about perseverance. It's always been about perseverance.
That's right.
And again, thank you to all the people, but in particular to Dr. Tracy Berman, Dr. Justin McNally, new Dr. Justin McNally between last year and this year. He finished his PhD for really kind of carrying me in.
Cool.
I truly appreciate that.
Anything else you guys want to mention about the 2019 Michigan Coast to Coast?
I would encourage people to look for Michigan Coast to Coast for 2020. Matt Acker and Mark Van Tongeren from Michigan Adventure Racing do a great job. I mean, last year was fun. Last year was great. A lot of that is kind of the first year inauguration event, and there's some really cool stuff about that.
Yeah, it's a big question. You're not sure how it's going to come off. Yeah.
And then this year, the vibe was just even better with the number of sponsors they had, the tent setups, partly maybe because I was better prepared this year on a more fitting bike, and I could actually experience it all a lot better. But they did a great job, which was well worth your time and efforts next year.
Cool. And I know, Amanda was back. We went and had dinner, her and the whole, a lot of their Muscle Monster, SDG Muscle Monster team were here, come from California because they love this ride so much. She loved it so much last year and wanted to do it again this year, and I'm sure they'll keep doing it. I think she won the women's overall.
She bested her time of last year by almost an hour, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Put a half hour on Kei Takeshita.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations, you guys. That's what an achievement. But let's talk about another one of our sponsors, Mr. David Palin.
Yes, which one?
Let's talk about Health IQ. Do you have health? I mean, life insurance.
I do have life insurance. Dr. T, do you have life insurance?
I do, though my husband didn't get me very much coverage.
I would think that he would get a lot of coverage.
My value is low.
My value is pretty good.
Dr. T, you need to go on healthiq.com and get a lot of coverage with all of the gravel road racing you've been doing.
So check it out, everybody. healthiq.com/WAP. What Health IQ has been a sponsor of the Wide Angle Podium. The WAP is for Wide Angle Podium, by the way. Has been a sponsor for Wide Angle Podium forever. And we really appreciate it. It's so helpful. And what it is if you go to healthiq.com/WAP, fill out this little survey. If you score elite, you get really cool, good rates on life insurance. And it's amazing. We've had all kinds of people that have told us that they've gone and checked it out and actually switched from, one person even switched from their employer's life insurance because they got a better deal with Health IQ. So check it out, healthiq.com/WAP. Go on if you don't score elite, which you probably will if you do, if you ride, any kind of decent distance. But even if you don't, then use that as your goal. I'm going to increase my fitness goals and become an elite and then get better life insurance rates through Health IQ. It's awesome. It really helps out. And we thank all our viewers that go there and check it out. So if you haven't done that yet, please go over there and check it out and let us know what you think.
Yeah, for sure.
That's no problem.
Where should they let us know?
bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
bikeshopshow@gmail.com, which would be a good place to send any questions you have.
Yes, of course.
Transitions.
Speaking of questions.
Yes.
Do you want to do some questions?
You want to do questions? You want to do a little tech thing? We don't really have time for tech. Dr. Tracy Berman took up all the time already, so we should just go right on.
I was talking way too much.
Let's just go right into questions.
Let's do it.
We'll talk about the little tech topic that I had next show.
That's right. Teaser. You're going to have to watch again.
All right. So we got some questions there, Mr. David Palin.
We do.
And Dr. Tracy Berman. And I'm going to start off, read the first one.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. So, all right. First question. It says, hello, Mr. Scott Diedenbach and Mr. David Palin. Great show. Thanks so much for making it truly educational. Sincerely, no. This question is from Robert, by the way. Robert doesn't give a location. Just his name is Robert. So, my situation, and here's why I wanted to read this one.
Yeah.
I am currently riding a surly ogre that I built up from the frame.
I know someone else like that.
That right there, I'm just telling you, Robert, when I read that first sentence of your email the other day, I was like, I like this guy.
He called me on the road. He said, I'm not going to tell you what the email says, but there's this guy, Robert, that's riding an ogre.
So, as I think I've mentioned many times, I have a surly ogre frame that I've had for a while, and that bike has probably been in 8 different configurations.
I was going to say the next sentence that's coming up is like you exactly, right?
It's probably been in 8 different configurations over its lifetime, including the time that I put a a friction shifter on the rear rack mount.
Yes.
So you had to like reach between your legs down by the seat stays where the rack would normally be mounted and shift it there.
Yeah. On a fully loaded ogre and gravel, what could go wrong? Reaching between your legs, looking back to shift.
No, that was just for fun. And I left it like that for a couple months. And then I realized, yeah, this looks really cool. It's really not that convenient to shift like this. But everybody, they're like, what did you do? What is that?
Yeah.
So anyways, the surly ogre has so many mount points, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And I've had more fun with that frame than just about any frame I've ever owned. So, yes. All right. And Robert continues, I continuously change out parts when I have the money because it's fun and I always want to mix it up. So there you go, folks. If you want to do that kind of thing, I recommend getting a surly ogre. The bottom bracket is 73 millimeter BSA. I recently threw salsa cow chipper bars on the thing and threw Apollo components. I like how Robert throws things on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And threw Apollo components thumb shifter adapter for my SRAM Eagle drivetrain onto the tops of, I think it means the drops. So I thumb shift mountain bike style on the drop bars. That's what I'm talking about, man.
You should try putting it on the chain stays.
There you go. Pretty dope setup. In the future, I may want to switch over to a SRAM Apex rear derailleur and cassette so I can install Apex 1 hydraulic brifters. I believe the Apex cranks only come fitted with a 68 millimeter bottom bracket spacing. My question, can I keep my SRAM Eagle front crank / chainring and have them run smoothly with Apex 1 rear derailleur and cassette, a mix and match? I believe it will give me 5 millimeter chain line difference between the front and rear, but I suspect that is okay for 3 reasons. Robert, this is one of the most complete emails we've ever received. Robert says for 3 reasons, but then he lists out 4. So there you go. So number 1, Salsa Fargo Apex 1 comes spec'd with this setup as a stock bike. Yeah, 73 millimeter bottom bracket, Apex rear, Eagle front. That right there is
that's an indication.
That answers the question right there. The Salsa Fargo is probably the frame that I would compare to the Ogre closest. It's one of the closest matches to the Ogre as far as anything else goes. 2, I also have a touring bike with a 67 millimeter bottom bracket spaced out to 73. Came stock like this. Drop bars with Shimano drivetrain. There's a touch of friction on the drivetrain, but it is definitely acceptable. 3, the Trek 520 also mix and matches mountain bike road parts. Sora front rear with Alivio mountain bike stuff in the rear. Side note, the fact that things aren't more interchangeable is maddening. So really, he didn't really have 4 things, just 3. But sorry about the essay, and thanks for the great show. Robert, yes, you're right. That's going to work. I mean, it sounds like you're not... The thing is, when people try and do this stuff, you got to be a little bit willing to... fudge things, and stuff may not be ideal, but if you have an understanding of how gearing works, and that if you stress the chain line, maybe you should try and like shift around a little bit and find something a little bit different. So you'll be fine. It's going to work, and have a blast. Keep doing more changes on that Ogre bike. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes sense, Mr. David Palin?
It all makes sense to me. That Ogre, when you got that Ogre, was it 3-4 years ago?
Oh, more than that.
Yeah.
More than that.
I was so excited for you. It was so cool. And the configurations you had it in, and then with the Bob trailer,
right?
It's like, that's a perfect bike camping outfit.
The Bob
right there.
nuts, so that you don't have to use the axle connector with the Bob trailer. You can actually connect it straight to the frame, and then that's going to be my bike packing bike when we do our bike trip. That's going to be my loaded up. It's interesting that he likes the cow chipper drop bars. One thing I have noticed, I don't love the way it rides with drop bars. I prefer the way it rides with the straight bar, but it sounds like Robert likes the way it rides with drop bars.
He's a very aggressive rider.
And that's the beauty of this frame and this whole thing is, if this is the kind of thing you're interested in, you want to do, I highly recommend the Ogre frame.
Sure.
You will have a blast with it, and you can... It's a great bike to put old parts from your other bikes onto, right? After you upgraded something on your other bike and you have these parts that I don't know what I'm going to do with all these parts that are still good. I just have upgraded them. Figure out ways to put them on your Ogre. You'll have a blast. So there you go.
Even if it's just decorative bolting of parts on the
absolutely.
On the brazons.
Yeah,
for sure.
You can put canties. It's got canty bosses and discs.
You could have both.
You could have both.
You could have the canties for the squealing.
You could have 2 rear
and
brakes.
The discs for stopping.
You could have the left brake be the disc and the right brake be the canty, both on the rear. No front brake. That's one thing I have not tried yet.
Yeah,
that sounds like
it's coming on the Ogre. Or you could do those little cheater brakes.
Like, oh, jeez, that
you could put
sounds terrible.
Flat bar mountain brakes for the calipers.
Yeah,
and disc brakes as part of your brifters, and do both.
See what I'm talking about? It's just never ending. So, all right, Mr. David Palin, do you want to read the next one from Chris?
Yeah, this next one's from Chris from Milan, Michigan. Chris writes, "Dear Master of the Wrench, Mr. Scotty D, and Michigan Coast to Coast finisher, Mr. David P." He must have just written this because it wasn't such a sure thing that it would happen.
Yes, I believe this just came yesterday, so there we go.
Thanks for all of your hard work on a great show.
And Chris didn't know that Dr. T was going to be here.
No.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. Are you on his committee? Can you make sure that he does not become a PhD or no?
No, you actually have to be qualified to be on someone's committee.
All right, we'll leave that right there. I have a question about choosing rims for a CX wheel build.
Yeah, okay.
Wheel build challenge.
There we go.
I have a rim brake single speed, which sees significant use as a commuter bike during the week, and on the weekend serves as my rowdy whip for the single speed CX race.
I just love that.
The rowdy whip?
Well, no, when people are commuting during the week on something and then they just turn it into their race bike on the weekend.
Yeah.
Do you ever see, how often do you think you see that in road? Very, very.
I have
very little
race day wheels that are only used.
I was just saying, when I had one bike, that salsa casserole was
It
the
was everything,
tri-bike,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
the commuter,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
try to crit.
Yep,
Yeah.
you do see it, but I think it is definitely a cool cyclocross
Yeah.
thing that you see a lot.
Yeah,
so.
like the specialized turbo S-Works tires that say on the tire themselves for race day only.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Not the case here with Chris.
Please continue.
Okay, sorry. This is my rowdy whip for the single speed CX race, as well as my pit bike for the more cultured category race. I am lucky to have 2 sets of the stock wheels set up with house-branded single speed rear hubs, bolt-on 135mm, and Mavic open rims, probably circa 2009, which he's a young kid, so he thinks that's old.
Yeah.
I have noticed that the brake track on the rims that I tend to use more heavily for commuting is starting to show some significant wear and probably should be replaced soon. I will probably be taking on the wheel build challenge, rebuilding the same hubs with new rims, ideally before CX starts. Other than rim weight and hole count, what should I be looking out for? I've been looking at the Velocity A23 and the Mavic Open Pro as good rim brake options, but I am obviously open to other suggestions. Thanks, Chris.
So I think those are two really good choices.
Which are the rims of choice for you, Dr. T?
What came with my bike?
Yeah. See, this is the thing with Dr. T. She's that other end of a spectrum of I ride what they give me or what Scotty D builds up, and I just ride it. I don't need to know all the facts. I just need to go.
It just needs to go around. And
You
that's all.
only have so much time, so if I'm thinking about that, then I can't think about training.
If I'm boiling red boiled skinned potatoes,
Yeah.
I don't have time to do this other
Tracy
stuff.
gets more enjoyment out of things like training numbers and that kind of
Oh,
stuff,
yes,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
she doesn't want to worry about things like rim numbers, and I'm on the exact opposite end of that spectrum, which is great. That's awesome. That's why this
We're
is such a great
also on
sport.
opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of organizational skills.
Which is why I love you both, because you
and David's right in the middle in the center. somewhere.
I think you might be a little more towards my side.
A lot more. When it comes to training and preparation, well, not training, but the preparation and organization, you and I are, and we're both laundry basket people.
So here's some other things that I would consider. One is, what do you want to do as far as tubeless setup if you're going to run tubeless?
Good
right?
point.
Are
Yep.
you going to look for rims? I would look at what's my go-to for most wheel stuff. Mr.
I was
David
surprised he
Palin,
didn't say this.
Hubs and rims is still DT Swiss.
DT
right?
Swiss,
I
yep.
love their stuff.
And also the head Belgiums. You're a big fan of the head.
Yep, I would look at both of those. I would consider the head Belgians for sure, because you can do you could do tubular if you wanted, right. And I think you can still get the rim brake option on those. If not,
then that's not an option.
let me
for
know, because I
Chris.
think I have a pair sitting downstairs that I could send to you, maybe that I could sell you that just haven't been able to be laced up yet. So check those out, but check out the DT Swiss stuff.
That said,
yeah.
by the way, those Velocity A23s,
Great.
They are great. Yeah.
That's a really good, rim. And, the aileron that Velocity makes is not a rim brake rim, but also just an amazingly good rim. So those are definitely possible. But look at the DT Swiss stuff. Look at the other thing you want to look for is your rim width, right? For cyclocross, because that is going to affect your tire width, right?
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you're balancing what you're choosing for your rim width against what size tires you're going to be running. And you don't want to if you're running full on 33s, I don't know if it's going to matter. I don't know what racing you're doing. If you're not doing UCI races, if you're a little over 33, it doesn't matter. But some people want to be, even though they're not doing a UCI race, they still like the idea of being UCI compliant, right? And seeing what can I do if I restrict myself to the same things that a UCI racer would be doing on this course. What can I do with the same restrictions? So I don't want to run a 35, because I wouldn't be allowed to if I was in a UCI race, and I want to compare what I'm doing with what the UCI racers are doing. So that's fine. So, a lot of people try and stick to that 33 rule. So if that's you, consider that rim width and how it's going to affect your tubeless or clincher tire width. So just look at those things. I don't know what his current rim width is. People ask me that a lot, and I'm like, as if I know all the rim widths off the top of my head. Not that Chris is asking that. I'm just saying other people do. So just check that out. Look at what your current rim width is and what it's doing to your tires, and see how anything that's different might affect that. So those are the two things I would look at, and go from there. I think you have two good choices already, but I would add the DT Swiss to those and see what they're making. All the different rims that they make are rock solid.
Yeah, and I'll actually put my plug in here. I rode Scotty built wheels coast to coast.
Yeah.
That were rock solid.
We had to how's the spoke tension on those?
The rear had to be retensioned.
Okay.
And that's retensioned after you and I retensioned
Right, again,
them.
retention.
Again, but
Yeah.
just very, very minor.
Yeah.
Which is expected. They were brand new, hadn't been ridden wheels.
And it was, the fact that it was much less than the last time we did it means that's going to probably just stop and go away. Sometimes it's just so crazy. I had the guy whose bottom bracket I did for What Are You Working On, right? He is running wheels that I built, and they haven't dropped one bit of tension the whole time, and they're done exactly the same way that those ones you're riding. Yeah. It's just sometimes.
Well, I'm a pretty big guy. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I'm kind of heavy.
He's probably twice your size too. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just sometimes you'll get certain combinations that you just got to stay on top of it first, but eventually, as those get worn in and set in, that will just stop and that'll hold that tension, no problem. So it's because you've got such a high skill level that it's okay because you can stay on top of those.
Exactly.
So check those out. The other thing about the DT Swiss rims, Chris, is I have always had great luck with those setting up tubeless.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with the DT Swiss rim setting up tubeless. So that's another factor depending on what. Not that I've had problems. I've used both of those other two for tubeless too, and they went together fine. But I've used all different kinds of DT Swiss rims and have never had a problem across the board with those. So, all right. Are we ready to continue on, Mr. David Palin?
I am ready.
Chris, thank you for the question.
Yeah. I would read this one, but I'm not even this. I should probably go to the green room and take a nap for this next one. Go ahead.
Why is that?
Go ahead. See what Georgina has to say.
Georgina says, "Hey, Scott." Crickets.
Don't you have that button?
Cricket. I don't think. Nope.
That is not.
Nope. Nope.
It's peanut.
Nope. 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 We don't have crickets. We got to get.
Oh, we need a sad trombone, if nothing else, for Mr. David Palin.
That's all right, Georgina. She says, "Hey, Scott."
I'm new here. My name's Mr. David Palin.
Just Josh, and I enjoyed the latest Bike Shop CX podcast. I love tire sizes. Here's another 24-inch tire size, 541, aka 600A. I don't think we mentioned that one.
We
last
did not.
time. The size was popular up until the late 1980s when 520 became the standard for Road 24.
Do you remember that, Mrs.? Who's Mrs.? Dr. Tracy B? Do you remember the 80s and the 520 standard?
No, I was watching cartoons then.
The 541 is now defunct, but riders who still have bikes with this tire size can use the 540 tire. It's a tad tight, but it works. Tailwinds, Georgina. Thank you
Georgina.
for that. That's not really a question, but good info.
Yeah.
Very true, and absolutely. And thanks for sending us that tidbit. So.
Yeah, and as much as we're kind of teasing a little bit here, but we still get bikes from the 80s that come into the shop, and people
at the co-op,
whether they're classics or whatever, people still ride these bikes. They're still good bikes, and this is really great information from Georgina. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Go on with the next one, Mr. But before we do that, Mr.
Yes.
David Palin, what do you what do you over there in your Michigan radio mug?
This, my Michigan radio NPR station mug, provided.
That's my mug.
From Dr. Tracy Berman. She has brewed.
Tracy, just this voice. I can't see Tracy with the way we're set up. I can't see. I just hear this voice come in.
Well, if you could see her face, she had the mean face on.
I love it.
Yeah. Mean face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But Dr. Tracy Berman came by the house today, and we shuttled together over to Bike Shop's CX Central
World headquarters.
Yeah. And she brought over for me a full cup of the full schleck.
A full cup of the full schleck.
I'm double full.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So for people
I'm feeling fulfilled.
In case you don't know what we're talking about, which I don't know how that can be possible, we're talking about Grimpeur Brothers coffee. Go to GrimpeurBrothers.com or just go to wideanglepodium.com, and there's a link there to get to the Grimpeur Brothers website. And if you purchase either the full schleck or Hello Cyclocross Friends Espresso, it helps out the show. It helps support the show. We actually get a part of those proceeds to help us do what we do and fix things and buy when cables and stuff die. All these things have a limited lifespan, Mr. David.
You get
Palin.
cable stretch on your Roadcaster.
As we know, these XLR cables don't last forever.
No, they
And
don't.
We're going to be at Trek this year doing live recording and stuff. And guess what happens to equipment when you take it on the road like that? It gets trashed
It does
very
indeed.
quickly. It is amazing how much quicker stuff wears out when you're taking it outside and dragging it around the ground. I mean, it's just crazy. So anyways, supporting the show through things like Grimpeur Brothers always helps out with stuff like that.
And as much as we are trying to promote our own brand here, I'm going to promote the competition, if you will. Go to Grimpeur Brothers.
Yes.
And sign up for the Sunny G coffee.
Yeah, we're definitely going to say that. I mean, if you haven't seen, Sunny Gilbert has a coffee now on Grimpeur Brothers. And if you do a 6-month subscription, you help support her program and her sponsorship that, sponsorship in cyclocross is really...
I mean, she's swimming in the dollars. Let's be honest.
Yeah, right. I mean, all cyclocross, they're just
pros.
They're just
They're
rich.
pros. They must be
yeah.
rich.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And if you look around the world of cyclocross right now, I think you can start to see there's maybe some issues going on.
Have we reached
We could
peak
have
cyclocross?
a talk about that at some point. I think
It's gravel grinding killing cyclocross.
it's certainly not helping.
Yeah.
I will admit. I mean, I think if you look at I was talking about this about a week ago, and a lot of the bike manufacturers are not making cyclocross bikes anymore. Guess what they're making? Gravel bikes.
Bike shop, gravel road.
And the reason for one of the big reasons for this is because that's what's selling, right?
Yeah.
And I got nothing against gravel bikes. I think they're awesome. I think it's awesome that we have all these choices, but we have to look at, what's going on with the selling of cyclocross bikes, and I think that's declining quickly as the selling of gravel bikes goes up. So I think hopefully we'll land somewhere kind of in the middle, and I'm thinking bike manufacturers will make something that is kind of a cross. I mean, let's face it, you can use anything for anything. We always have to preface everything we say with that. But these, the sponsors are kind of going away in cyclocross right now, and we need to kind of reverse that. So one of the things you can do is do things like subscribe for Sunny G's 6-month coffee subscription and help that situation out.
Sunny G and Carolyn money.
Yes, both of them, and that definitely helps. It does. It's all the expenses that these riders have to get around the country. Trust me, I know. Right?
They're not buying an Airstream with their stuff.
No.
They're going to stay overnight.
That was purchased with
in
my
the
own...
Bike Shop CX Airstream.
The Airstream has been in the plan for years. That's years of planning to get that thing. But, no one's getting rich doing this. So we have to, as a cyclocross community, we have to support the riders if we want them to continue on. And this is a way you can virtually directly do this, and you get something for it. So there you go. You get the great coffee.
Yep.
Right? And you get to help out one of the best pro racers in the business right now in the U.S. for sure. So go check it out. Go to GrimpeurBrothers.com. Subscribe to Sunny D's Coffee. Buy yourself a bag of Hello Cyclocross Friends or the full schleck, and it really helps out. If you want to continue to see these things happen, you got to throw a little bit of support their way. So
Okay, should we have Dr. Tracy B. read the next one?
Sure.
Yeah. This next one from John in Asheville,
John in
North Carolina.
Asheville.
Okay, I think I can read it from where I am. I'm getting older, Okay.
Riding with me will do that to you.
Says the youngest person in the room.
Yeah.
Okay. Good day, gents. I recently purchased...
Obviously, another person that didn't know you would be here, so that's
right.
Sorry,
Oh, that's fine. No offense taken. I recently purchased a Salsa Warbird carbon frame, and I'll be building it up with SRAM Rival group set and I-19 wheels.
I-9. Yeah.
I-9. My apologies.
That's all right.
She gets the better ones. They're
I did
10
not
better.
receive a Crown Race with the headset when it was delivered. I asked the shop where I ordered it, and they told me the race is built in. It is tapered, but I want to be sure before I ruin a fork. I know Scotty D has built a couple of those for Mr. David Palin and Dr. Tracy B. Is this indeed the case?
That,
I would be
Is
fine.
it indeed the case that Dr.
No,
that
he did not.
Scotty's...
He fixed mine. He helped build it properly, but he did not build it.
Yeah,
It was a rebuild.
right. It was a do-over.
Making sure things were torqued on appropriately. I would be fine with a direct email reply as I'm anxious to get started. Thanks for the help.
So I did do that.
John, was it Walkerwitz, Asheville, North Carolina. Proud wide-angle podium member.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I did. I sent John a reply, and I did say in that reply that I did not build either one of your bikes, and what was going on with that. But yeah, so this is a common carbon frame / fork thing to do now. Is when you have that, especially with a carbon steer tube, you've basically got one full piece of carbon there, right? From the steer tube all the way down to where the fork tips fit in the fork blades. So, you don't really need to, let's not press on a race. Let's just make it part of the carbon form in there and just have the bearing right up on that. So his chop that said that was correct, John. You see that in a lot of these carbon bikes like that. So go for it. John has come, we've gone back and forth several times. Yeah. Because he's had other questions on this build. So it's coming along, and I told John, you need to send us a picture when it's done and when it's completed. He's not done yet. So hopefully we'll get it.
Black. I'm assuming it's the black frame, right?
Yeah.
I think
the frame only.
The frame only was black.
Unless he got something crazy happened where he purchased a frame.
Yeah.
Like
Mr. David Palin did. Yeah.
So there we go. All right, John. I like I said, I think I've answered all your. Every time John sends me an email, he's like, "Okay, this is the last one."
Yeah. And that's part of the fun of building up a bike from
John,
frame is always one more thing.
Right.
It's all, and that's part of the fun.
John is learning the process that I think we've mentioned many times on the show, Mr. David Palin, that when you when you just buy a frame and you start putting stuff on it, it's way different than when a shop gets a bike in a box.
Yeah.
And everything fits and everything goes on there, and it's a whole different process. It's a great learning process and something to do. So, John, I hope you are having a blast doing it, and we'll be out riding that thing soon. And let us know. And it's okay to keep sending questions.
Yeah,
that's totally fine.
Hey, that'd be a great bike too. The way he has that thing set up. Come on up, meet Dr. Tracy Berman herself.
There you go.
Up at the Red Kite Ronde.
Mm-hmm.
You guys could have 3 Warbirds. You'll probably take your bike, right?
Take my bike, yeah.
He's riding with me.
That's right. Well, I thought you were doing announcing or something. I didn't. I forgot.
Mr. Voice of American Cyclocross is going to be there.
But I thought you were helping. I can't keep your schedule straight, Mr. David.
That's true.
I'd be devastated to find out on the show that David's not riding it with me.
Oh, I forgot to mention.
Then I can go as fast as I want to, though.
There you go. You don't have to wait for me.
Yeah.
All right, this last one is another correction. Not that Georgina's was a correction, but this is from Matt. I told Matt, and I also responded to Matt. So Matt says, I just wanted to point out something you said in the Tidbits episode about the drive side chainstay design of the Able. The elevated this was the 2 bikes that won
Dirty Kanza,
right? The elevated chainstay design is not indeed to prevent chain slap. It's to make room for larger chain rings, large tire clearance, and having enough room to make a stay that will provide the stiffness they hope to achieve, all while keeping a chain line within the range recommended by the Big Two. All things of much higher importance and difficulty to achieve than silencing chain slap. This has been used on quite a few bikes to overcome the aforementioned design challenges. Just thought it might be a helpful tidbit from an engineer who finds bike design interesting. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Matt. And Matt, you are completely right. In fact, I even said to Matt in the email reply that I think, Mr. David Palin, you tried to steer me in that direction last week, and I just blabbed right over you and said, no, I'm going to say this. And so, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And when just for clarification on Matt's point here, when he says here that it is all while keeping chain line with the range recommended by the Big Two, that is Mr. Scotty D and Mr. David Palin.
If I wish. So, but,
one of you isn't very big.
See why I wanted to stick with her for 210 miles?
So, yes, thank you, Matt. That is absolutely true. All those things are way more difficult to achieve than chain slap, and that's what I get for not reading the stuff more thoroughly. Way back in the day, I think that was part of the original intent of raising up that chainstay, but that was...
Now he's backtracking.
I'm talking
Matt,
decades...
don't listen to him.
I'm talking decades
Matt,
ago.
turn off the show. Matt, just kill it here.
No, but I'm talking decades ago. So they've moved on and are way far, far more advanced than what I was thinking about. So yeah, Matt, you're spot on. So thank you for that correction / additional information. That is awesome. And if anyone else would like to send questions to the show, they should send it to bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
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 All right, everybody. I think that's it for that this week. Have we covered everything?
I think that's probably just about it. With that, what's going on, Tracy?
The bike shop is closed.
Oh, she got in on me. This is the outro. Did you cut me off? This is the... Come on, give me some volume there. Is this the outro where I'm not supposed to talk?
Yeah, shut up.
Oh.
All right, and that is the show for this week as Mr. David Valen drops his headphones. Thanks for listening, as always. Thank you to Dr. Tracy Berman for being on the show. I hope we got everybody's questions answered. Next week, we'll continue on with a new tech topic. I think we're going to talk next week about, and this will give me some, I should say next show, not next week. This will give me a chance to get these things together. We're going to talk about chain checkers. I've been seeing a lot of stuff about chain checkers, and we're going to do a part of it on the show this time, but we're going to push it to next time. So that's just how it goes sometime. As always, thank you to all our sponsors, Whoop, Grimpeur Brothers, and Health IQ, as well as we are proud members of the Wide Angle Podium. If you get a chance to get over to wideanglepodium.com, become a member. It's really awesome, and it helps us out tremendously. So thank you to everybody that has done that, and if you're considering it, thank you for that too. So, all right, I think that's going to do it for this time. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope everybody is getting out there and riding. If you are getting out there and riding, you know the drill. Be careful out there. Take care of each other out there, and until next time, the Bike Shop is closed.